Let me show you something scary. You can break an entire application without hacking everything. No malware, no tools, no access. Just a text box. That's SQL injection. It all starts with something very normal. A login form, a search bar, even a simple URL. You type something in, and the application takes the input and sends it to the database. That's how every app works. Simple, expected. But here is the problem. What if that input is not just data? Most developers believe something very simple. The input is safe. They assume users will only type normal things, such as names, numbers, search terms. And honestly, that makes sense. But then there is another assumption that the framework will take care of everything, that it will sanitize input, protect the query, handle the risk. But here is the problem, no one actually checks. And that's where things starts to break. Here is the reality. It's not what developers expect. On one side, they assume the input is clean, safe, exactly what they expect. But in reality, users can send anything, not just names or numbers, but actual SQL commands. And here is what happens next. The application accepts it without checking, and then the database executes it as if it was a trusted query. Let's walk through how this actually happens. It starts with something simple, that is, an input field, login form, search bar, anything the user can type into. Then the attacker does something different. They don't enter normal data, they inject SQL. The application takes that input and sends it to the database without checking it, and the database executes it as if it was a real command. The attacker never breaks in, your application invites them in. Let's look at a real example. This is how normal login works. The application checks username and password. If both match, you get access. But now watch what the attacker does. They don't change the system, they change the input. They type admin single quote dash dash. That small input changes the entire query. It basically tells the database, ignore everything after this point. And what gets ignored? The password check. So now they log in without a password. So what can an attacker actually do? They can read your data, your emails, your passwords, your customer records. They can modify it, change account details, alter balances, inject malicious content, and they can delete it, wipe entire tables, erase user records, remove audit logs. But it does not stop there. In some cases, they can execute commands and take over the entire server. The core problem is actually very simple, but very dangerous. The database cannot tell the difference between data and commands. Normally, when you type something, it should be treated as data. But when there is no input validation and the application builds queries by joining strings, that input becomes part of the command itself. That's called string concatenation, whereas the application stitches user input directly into the query. And when that happens, the database executes it as if it was written by the developer. So, how do you actually stop this? First, use prepared statements. They separate data from commands. So, even if someone enters malicious input, it stays data. Next, validate everything. Only allow what you expect. Name, numbers, known formats. If it looks unusual, reject it. And finally, limit access. Your database should only have the permission it actually needs, not full control. Because even something goes wrong, you have already limited the damage. Let's bring this all together. Never trust input. Every field is a potential attack vector. Always use parameterized queries. They make sure that input stays data. Limit access because even if something goes wrong, you have reduced the damage. And test your defenses. Don't assume your app is secure. Verify it. Because SQL injection is not a new attack, it's a known problem and it's still happening. SQL injection is preventable. The only question is, will you fix it before someone exploits it?